Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Vimate Vedanta Ametina Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasodini Devasesha Sunyavadi Astyachare Shatadini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasodini Devasesha Punyavadidi Bhaktachadishatadini Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sariri Gaura Bhakta Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Baba Jai Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Baba Yasodhanandana Rajajanarandana Yasodhanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo, glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistarbhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamai. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Navasesha Shanyavari Pastachari Shitani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is. All of you wonderful Vaishnavas out there. And today is, well, I don't know what it is in Australia, New Zealand, India, Russia, Malaysia, Philippines, America, Europe, wherever you are. But today is Ekadashi here, and tomorrow is we honor the disappearance day of Jayananda Prabhu tomorrow, one of the most famous of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, honored by Srila Prabhupada. In fact, Jayananda Prabhu was the only disciple of Srila Prabhupada who was given this special, you could say, honor, where Prabhupada said in all of our temples throughout ISKCON that we should remember his disappearance day, and on the Rath cards, his picture should be always there on the front of the Rath card at every Rath Yatra. So he was very special devotee. Prabhupada said a day should be put aside in his memory, perhaps of all. Even great souls, many great souls, followers of Srila Prabhupada have come, and many of them have passed away. But only Jayananda was selected by Srila Prabhupada to have that day put aside for all ISKCON members, to honor his Tirobhav, his disappearance day, which here in France is tomorrow. I don't know. In other countries it may be different, I don't know. But it's tomorrow. So it behooves us, if we take advantage of this opportunity on that day, to remember him and the wonderful example which he set in our Krishna consciousness movement. We may be inspired by kirtans and some activities that great devotees perform with our classes, whatever it may be, different wonderful characteristics, qualities devotees may have, which have been awoken in the presence of Srila Prabhupada. But Jayananda Prabhu, just like our dear Pankajangri Prabhu, who passed away recently, another example you could say of a similar nature of personally, Charya. Charya is one who acts by example. It's not just somebody who's labeled to be a guru or something, and has disciples. But then Charya, neither Jayananda Prabhu nor Pankajangri Prabhu literally had Diksha disciples, but they set the example. We can all learn from them. Siksha is more important than Diksha in the real sense of the term. It's Siksha which propels us forward in our spiritual life. Diksha, just you could say, just gives us that opportunity, connection to move forward. But it's Siksha which is the life force of a disciple or devotee. So Jayananda Prabhu was a wonderful exemplary example of a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And that's what we need. We need to learn. Sometimes we spend a lot of time discussing the eligibility of the guru. But Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, they emphasize more the eligibility of the disciple. Our business is to become an eligible disciple, not to talk all the time about eligibility of the guru. Because as long as we're not eligible as disciples, we're not really eligible to understand the nature of the guru either. So our challenge, our task is to try to develop the actual quality of a disciple. And Jayananda Prabhu, Pankajangri Prabhus, they are very extraordinary in setting this example. And one of the primary aspects, besides their absolute faith in Srila Prabhupada, which is the primary one, you could say, come what may, their faith in Srila Prabhupada was unswerving. But their complete absorption in devotion, not just talking about devotional service, not even just choosing what they like to do, which we may or may not have as their nature. But Srila Prabhupada, whatever Srila Prabhupada said, Jayananda Prabhu would do it, not considering any external factors, time, place, circumstance. Whatever Prabhupada wanted, he would do. And although he was more senior in age than most of the devotees, he joined the movement in 1967 in San Francisco. And he was physically older than most, probably all the devotees in that temple at the time. He was working, which was another exceptional feature in those days. So he was a taxi driver in San Francisco, and he was practically maintaining the temple on his income, at least a good percentage of it. And he was, of course, in the Prabhupada, he became temple president at one point of time. But he would do any menial service, clean the toilets, clean the garbage cans. There was no false pride there. Whatever service opportunity came its way, Jayananda would be willing to accept it. Of course, as president, he had to engage other devotees, but he would also engage himself. And that was the mood. He set that mood, and other devotees also, but very, very especially Jayananda Prabhu set this mood. Where the temple president, all senior devotees, Brahmins, everyone there was never a service which was to be shirked. Every service was a good fortune. Even if you were the head pujari, the opportunity to clean the storeroom was a great privilege. or if you're a great kirtan leader. Another incident, something that came to my mind, I remember in Vrindavan, I can't remember, a long time ago, maybe 1991 or something, when I was staying in Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram Mandir. At that time, it wasn't long after they established, Ayendra Prabhu established the 24-hour kirtan as a etched in stone program in the Krishna Balaram temple. But the qualification to join the 24-hour kirtan was for, I can't remember how many months, but maybe 3 months. The devotee was not eligible to join the kirtan party. He had to clean the brahmachari toilets every day, bathrooms and toilets, to develop a little quality to be able to perform kirtan. And then when you start kirtan, you had to sing all during the night on your own for 3 hours with no one around. And these are foundations. Sometimes we just jump in and think, oh yes, I know this, I know that, I am so and so, I'm a Brahmin, I know this. Well, Lord Chaitanya's mood was not like that. His whole mood was that I'm not a Brahmin, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya, nor am I a Shudra. What am I? I'm the servant of the servant of the servant, 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 on and on and on. Ultimately, as the gopis of Vrindavan, we're the servants of the servant, 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 servant. This is you can say, the actual goal of our practices is to do actually not just label this, not just artificially put on a show, but to actually develop this mood of being a humble servant. And in that mood, whatever mercy Krishna bestows upon one accepts it with all one's heart, whether it's a service opportunity or whether it's a chastisement, whatever it may be, a rejection, all sorts of things come along. Why? Because Krishna wants us to go back to Godhead and not stay here with our own attachments, our own perceptions, our own false egos, etc. He arranges situations to remove all of these obstacles on our path of devotion. So many times Srila Prabhupada would be asked, how can I please you, Srila Prabhupada? Maybe I haven't counted, but I know on many, many occasions Prabhupada wrote back saying, you can please me most by being fully engaged 24 hours a day in devotional service. Now, devotional service is not some concoction of our mind, an interpretation of what it means, or thinking, I will please Krishna this way. Now, that's not a bad sentiment, but it's not necessarily an elevated stage of devotional service. It may be a stage. The more elevated stage is whatever you wish me to do. Whatever you wish me to do. The devotee, and of course, even more elevated stages, maybe. In our position of aspiring devotees or aspiring servants, this should be our mood. And whatever, please tell me what to do. And Prabhupada himself said the only question he asked of importance to a spiritual master was, how can I serve you? His Prabhupada's spiritual master gave him specifics, we could say, to preach Krishna consciousness in English language all over the world. Well, we may not get such a specific, at least not from Srila Prabhupada. We have general instructions, and those still hold, even if we're not officially initiated by Prabhupada. The general instructions of Srila Prabhupada still hold to everyone who's a follower in the line from Srila Prabhupada. And we may get some specifics from disciples or other devotees, our temple managers, whatever, in terms of detailed instructions or detailed service to apply. But Jayananda's mood was, this is again, the instruction of Srila Prabhupada, emphasized of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who would repeat, we repeated as many times, and Prabhupada did also, that the only thing that matters is the instruction of my spiritual master. Whether I go to heaven or hell doesn't make any difference. It's the instruction, to imbibe that instruction of one's spiritual master as one's life and soul. And he said, it's my sadhana practice and it's my goal, sadhya. It's the everything to the sincere disciple, is to fulfill how to please one's spiritual master. It's the secret of success, Prabhupada said, in spiritual life. So Jayananda Prabhu was 24 hours. I mean, of course, he did sleep, but only he would be the last one to go to bed and the first one to rise in the morning, generally speaking. And there was very rarely any occasion where during the day, and it wasn't only just Jayananda, most devotees, it was very rare that one would rest or sleep in the daytime. If you only had 1 hour sleep at night, that was your daily quota, pretty much. It wasn't forced, but it was generally accepted like that. But he was such a servant. He would serve the devotees, clean, cook, wash, go on Sankirtan, lead Kirtan, or we'd prefer to give it to others, go on runs to sell incense, to fund the temple, on. And of course, he's perhaps most famous amongst those who didn't have his association, particularly as being the inaugurator, practically speaking, after the first Rath Yatra in San Francisco, at least, of the Rath Yatra, Bill Arts, and personally leading out the Rath Yatra federation. And he was even an acharya in his last days. He left the world in May 1977, before Srila Prabhupada left, which was quite ironic. And he was suffering from leukemia, which is like blood cancer. And he gave all of his income, although he had some inheritance, some trust for his health. What's the use of this? We're going to die anyway. And what is this body? It was nothing the doctors could do. So instead of wasting all the money on trying to keep going, he gave everything to Srila Prabhupada for his preaching. But in his last year, I mean, there are hundreds of stories of Jayananda, but in his last year, one thing which he really, really dreamed about was New York Rath Yatra. And on his last year, 1976, actually, year before last, he built the carts and organized a huge Rath Yatra festival in New York, which till this day, which is taking place in a few weeks' time this year, they're actually having Rath Yatra in New York this year, if you happen to be in a position to go. I don't know. What's the exact date? Do you remember, Jan? 12th? 12th of June. 12th of June, they're having Rath Yatra in Fifth Avenue, New York, the main road in New York City. So that was started by Jayananda Prabhu. And his last year in 77, he was staying in Los Angeles. And although he passed away before the Rath Yatra, he did practically everything to organize the Rath Yatra. He wasn't moving, but he would organize it on the phone or through other devotees to establish the first Los Angeles Rath Yatra, which is still going on to this day. And the San Francisco Rath Yatra has gone on uninterrupted till this day, and it's even declared a holiday by the mayor. I don't know if people actually take it, but it's one of those many holidays on the San Francisco calendar. And that Rath Yatra Day it was very famous festival in San Francisco. Maybe now it's not so famous in a sense because there's not so many hippies around anymore. There's none practically, a few old timers. And now it's mostly Indian devotees who are organizing, which is wonderful. Anyway, this is all the mercy of Jayananda Prabhu teaching us how to get the full mercy of Krishna by completely surrendering ourselves to devotional service 24/7. What an example. And Pankajanga is another wonderful example of this. How from the time he went to Mayapur in 1973 to join his twin brother, Jananivas Prabhu. Since that date, 73, he's been completely dedicated to the service of their lordships there in Mayapur, whether it's Radha Madhava or Nrsingadeva, but he's been completely dedicated there. And he also was, of course, with Braj Bilas and Ambarish Prabhu. They were doing world tours to raise funds for the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, taking Lord Nityananda's badukas, his shoes, his load of shoes all over the world, and raising funds for the Grand Temple of the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, which is due to open in 2023, I believe. Due to COVID, it's been delayed one year. Well, we hope you're all keeping well and not getting too much affected by all the inconveniences which come about, not just the health ones, but economic, practical inconveniences. And again, it's the same thing, keeping fully engaged. It's not that we're only fully engaged when we're in the, let's say when it's a sunny day, but no matter what the situation is, a devotee wants to be fully engaged in Krishna's service, even in a state of sickness, or in a state of, just like we can now mention on Tuesday, it's the appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadev, at least here in France, where maybe it's different where you are. But whatever it is, it's the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev, the most special, perhaps other than Krishna, the appearance of Krishna and Balaram, their associates, and Lord Nrsimhadev may be apparently the most famous. Lord Ramchandra maybe. Of course, we have Lord Chaitanya, but he's not counted as one of the Das avatars. But Lord Nrsimhadev is very special for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Extremely special. Sometimes people think, why are you worshipping Lord Nrsimhadev? This is Aishvarya Bhav with all the kinds of secondary bhavs, not even the primary ones. What a loving relationship is. How do you have a loving relationship with a half man, half lion, fierce form who comes to destroy the demons? Okay, delivered Prahlad Maharaj. But our mood is Rasika. Our mood is Radha and Krishna and the gopis. Maybe if you're a little bit more, what we say, a little bit more reverential, maybe Sita Ram, Hanuman, Lord Nrsimhadev. We don't hear much about Lord Nrsimhadev except for the pastime of dealing with Prahlad Maharaj. Of course, there are other in the Puranas, there are other instances even in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, but it was very, you can say, very small pastime regarding the Chankazi. We don't hear much more than the same 7th canto of Bhagavatam pastimes of Lord Nrsimhadev. So, okay, it's great. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also spent a lot of time with people in general discussing the pastimes of Lord Nrsimhadev and Dhruva Maharaj. They both seem to be pastimes which are kind of, we'd say, we can't say on a lower level, but on a level of less rasa in terms of sweetness anyway, than that of, Sita Ram or Radha Krishna or Gauranga Lila, etc., and other Leelas. But why so much emphasis? Why not Kurmadev? Why not Varahadev? We do also hear, but not as much as Nrsimhadev. And to the extent that when Prabhupada, right from the beginning, 67 actually, and when Prabhupada suffered suffered from some heart failure, and it was at that time he said he could have even passed away when he was in New York. And he had the devotees sing this Namaste Narasingha. That's when it was introduced, these prayers. So we'll sing these now, and I think you all know these prayers. We can sing along. Namaste Narasingha. Namaste Narasingha. Yato yamitato nashingo. Yato yamitato nashingo. Ahir nashingo hitai ye nashingo. Narashinga made Sharanam Prapaje. Kara Kara Kamala Hare Rakam Abhuta Shingam Dalita Hiranyakasipu Kanubringa Keshavadita Naradirupa Jagagadisha Hare Jagagadisha Hare Jagagadisha Hare Kamakara Kamala Pare Bolo Abutta Shinga Dalita Anubringa Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jagagadisha Hare Jagagadisha Hare Jagagadisha Hare. Jai Sri Bhagavan Ki Jai. So we may wonder why Srila Prabhupada had us chant these prayers right from the very, I was not there, but the devotees who were there from the beginning, and they became an established mantra in ISKCON. And pretty much after every arti, and we used to have 6 artis a day in London, and probably most temples still do, that is, have Radha Krishna days at least, we would sing afterwards the Namaste prayers, at least 3 times after Mangal Arti, noon Arti, and evening Arti, Arti. The Namaste prayers. And at other times, before we would go on Hari Nam, we would chant before going on a journey. You know, when you get in your car, when you get going on a plane ride, whatever it was, we would chant Namaste. Sometimes before our services, even we would chant Namaste Narashingaya. So it seemed like pretty, other than the Hare Krishna mantra, Panchatattva mantra, I don't know if it's the next most popular or most commonly chanted, but very common. Why? And well, because Prabhupada was sick, and he wanted us to pray that he would not, you know, like we do sometimes when devotees are sick, chant Namaste prayers. We had a lot of that this last year, but there's more to it than that, a lot more. We could say, well, first of all, Srila Prabhupada's mission, he came to the West to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. So we could say that Prabhupada engaged us in chanting this to protect that order of his spiritual master. Because at that time in 67, the movement was very, very, you could say, green. Hardly anybody practically had the ability, experience, confidence, etc., to push forward the movement. It was too premature. So we could say that the protection, Prabhupada said, also of the movement. Because it is when a child is very, very young, the child needs a lot of help. A baby needs the complete protection of its mother. So the Hare Krishna movement, the ISKCON, it was all ISKCON, at that time was in a very, very immature stage, a budding stage practically, and very delicate. It could easily have disappeared. Old habits and environmental situations, the challenges of the world. We all know how difficult it is when we're on our own, especially when we're young and inexperienced, etc., still unknowing even, carrying so much baggage, material baggage in our consciousness, yet to be cleaned out. So to protect this movement as you could say, the mission to deliver humankind from its materialistic pathway. And Prabhupada was so dedicated. He'd been given this order, and he was so determined, so desirous. My Lord, I want to give my life to serve the order of my spiritual master. So from that point of view, we could say it's a little more than just, oh, please protect my spiritual master or protect so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And on the other side is because from our perspective, who are we? We are still very much, or we may not even recognize it sometimes, conditioned in this material world, seeing things with ourselves in the center, trying to adjust the world around us to satisfy my senses and mind, and all, not necessarily seeing things from Krishna's perspective, at least not much. Even when we chant Hare Krishna, it's often mechanical. It's not usually with devotion. We're not putting the holy name in the center of our consciousness necessarily. It's going on mechanically, and our mind, we're letting our mind go somewhere else. The mind is like the wind, It'll go here, there, and everywhere unless one harnesses it. So to harness that wild mind is not easy, we all know. But this is our surrender, we could say. This is our devotion, that we're trying to harness the mind by bringing the mind, focusing the mind on the sound of the holy name. That nice Harinam Sankirtan yesterday. The city we went to is nearby New Mayapur. It's called Tour. Some of you have been there. It's a moderate-sized city. But yesterday it was packed. It was packed with people. Why? Because yesterday was the first Saturday after a kind of a restricted lockdown, where the restaurants were opened again, at least in open air, not inside, but outside them. There were tens of thousands of people. Tours is famous for its restaurants. People come from all over France, maybe other countries, just because of the restaurants, streets of restaurants. And the restaurants were packed. It was like, I don't know, it was like London or something on a crowded Saturday evening, practically small scale. And there were so many people, and so many, unusual for French people, you could say, were joining in with the kirtan, at least some of them, dancing and so on. It was could have been a lot better, but it was really amazing. And Krishna gave them an opportunity. So this Harinam Sankirtan, absorbing our consciousness in service. But when we chant the holy name, absorbing our consciousness in Krishna is not always so easy. Prabhupada said, therefore, we have to engage in devotional service in order to keep that wild mind busy, as by performing practical service, and our hearts, our consciousness gradually become, and the more we do it in a willing way and desiring to be engaged in service, authorized service, the more our hearts may become purified. And how does that work? Because Krishna is pleased. When we try to dedicate ourselves to the order of the spiritual master, Krishna is very, very pleased. And how does he reciprocate? He cleanses the heart. Those who, on this path, Tesham Satati Yuktanam, Vachitam Pratipurvakam, engage in devotional service means to engage according to the spiritual master's directions, not according to our whim. And then Krishna is very pleased, and he cleanses our hearts. It may be initially that some dirty things come up. As we clean a room, dirty things come up. No doubt, even if you use the water, when the water is still, then all the dirty things are in the bottom. It looks like everything is clean, but once you start stirring the water, all the dirt comes up. The devotional service is a bit of a stir on our consciousness. Dirty things and attachments and objections, all sorts of doubts, everything comes out, and it looks a bit dirty. But if we keep on cleaning, then gradually that dirt will be removed. Just like when we boil ghee, or boil butter, we should say, to make ghee, then all kinds of, say, sediments and all kinds of other items come out in the butter, and we have to scoop them off. And gradually, that as the butter boils, then it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer until it becomes pure golden ghee. So our devotional lives are a bit like that. Boiling the milk, sometimes Prabhupada would say, to cleanse our hearts. Now, Lord Nrsimhadev has an enormous part to play in this regards, in the sense that he is the remover of obstacles. Normally we hear about Ganesh being the remover of obstacles on one's path. And most Hindus pray to Lord Ganesh for various reasons, one of them to remove obstacles on their paths. They may be praying for other things to get wealth and so on. But in terms of obstacles, he's normally, but Ganesh is said to be a follower of Lord Nrsingadev. So Lord Nrsingadev is also specifically appears to remove obstacles on our paths. And what are the obstacles on our path may not be the ones we think they are. We may think it's some external problem. Well, he can also do that. And he may do in the neophyte stages if we're not ready for more. But the real obstacles are within our hearts. The Lord Nrsingadev removes for all the various expansions, you could say, or manifestations of the false ego in our minds and the environment which we develop around us, etc. To remove these various, whatever is an obstacle on our path to pure bhakti. So we certainly have obstacles on our path. Now, they're not really, in a sense, obstacles. They're just various concepts, various thoughts, various desires, various attachments which we have in this world, which can, by fully surrendering to Krishna, of course, they have no more efficient, they're no more potency. They're weak, they're completely weakened. They have no more ability to influence this. We're completely surrendered, but we're not completely surrendered. Therefore, to understand Lord Nrsingadev's key role in this part, very key. Now, I'm going to read one verse, two verses maybe, which you're familiar with, some of you, from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the 5th canto. It's chapter 18, I think. Yeah, chapter 18 of the 5th canto, text number 7. And if you have your Bhagavatams, or if Rasikananda is in a position to do so, and he hasn't fallen asleep or something, he might like to put it on the screen. Okay, this is text number 7 of the 5th canto, 18th chapter. Hari Varshichapi Bhagavan Narahari Rupen Naste Tarupa Grahana Nimitam Uttaratra Vidyasye Taddaitam Rupam Mahapurusha Gunabhajano Mahabhagavato Daityadanava Kula Tirti Karana Shila Charitaha Palada Vyavadana Nanya Bhakti Yogena Sahatadvarsha Purushar Upastedam Chodaharati. So this is the prayers from the Srimad Bhagavatam offered to the Lord in his various forms, according to the devotees' Ishtadev, or their worshipable form of the Lord. And we're hearing in this verse and in consequent verses the prayers of the residents of Harivarsh. And they are worshippers of Lord Nrsingadev. So their prayers are addressed to Lord Nrsingadev. They may be worshippers of other forms of the Lord in other planets, in other places. But this section of prayers is the residents of Jambudweep who offer prayers to the Lord. And they may be, as I said, they may be worshiping the Lord in different forms. So this particular verse goes, Sukadeva Goswami said, he's speaking to, of course, King Parikshit, my dear king, Lord Nrsingadev resides in the tract of land known as Harivarsh. In the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I shall describe to you how Prahlad Maharaj calls the Lord to assume the form of Nrsingadeva. Prahlad Maharaj, the topmost devotee of the Lord, is a reservoir of all the good qualities of great personalities. His character and activities have delivered all the fallen members of his demoniac family. Now notice there, Prabhupada says his character and activities, not just because he's labeled a devotee, but because of his character and activities. Devotee is judged, Sadhubhushnam, by the qualities and the character, not just by, titles or years or knowledge or whatever, but by his actual character. character of a devotee is unique because they're pure at heart. Lord Nrsingadev is very dear to this exalted personality. Thus, Prahlad Maharaj, along with his servants and all the denizens of Harivarsh, worship Lord Nrsingadev by chanting the following mantra. This is an introduction to the prayers of Prahlad and all the residents of Harivarsha. And there are many points in this verse which are significant and preliminary in our understanding of the position of Lord Nrsingadev. Purport: Jayadev Goswami's 10 prayers, worshipping the incarnations of Lord Krishna, contain his name in every stanza. For example, Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare, as we just sang. Or in another verse, Prabhupada mentions here, Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai, and Keshavadrita Vamana Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. There are different forms of the Lord, whether it's Lord Nrsingadev, Ramana Dev, or whoever it may be, Matsya Avatar, and so on and so forth. And the Das avatars, who are mentioned therein. Names of the Lord are there. The word Jagadisha refers to the proprietor of the universe. His original form is the two-handed form of Lord Krishna, standing with a flute in his hands and engaged in tending the cows. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Chintamani Prakalasat Masukalpa Vriksha Laksha Vitesha Surabir Abhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sambrama Sevyamanam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desires in abodes built with spiritual gems and surrounded by millions of purpose trees. He's always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Both Krishna is the original personality of God. Ete Chanksa Kalampam. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. The beginning of the Bhagavatam, this verse is there. Of all Krishna, of all the various forms of Godhead, he's the Swayam Bhagavan. He's the original form of Bhagavan, or original form of all the other forms of Godhead, which most people don't think like that personality of Godhead. And they think there are many gods, people think many gods. They don't understand this primary principle of the nature of God. It's a very simple one. And a primary one is that God can do anything he likes. He's inconceivable to human brains. His inconceivability is Chintya Shakti. These are very preliminary things, and without accepting that, there's no understanding of God. But he can do anything he likes, and we may not be able to understand why or how he does it. Sometimes we forget that we are a little conditioned. We don't even understand how our own brain works, what to speak of the brain of God. So, he's able to do anything. Now, it's a very simple understanding, but somehow or another, people don't seem to grasp it, that we ourselves take on different dresses, different moods, go to different places with different people to do different things. And we're just insignificant little conditioned jiva. Well, why can't God do that? Very simple. Sometimes we literally put on false dress to play different roles in a drama or a party or something. We certainly dress differently and put on different makeup, especially ladies with different hairstyles and so on. People like to paint themselves, tattoo themselves, all kinds of things. Because this propensity, a variety of pastimes, of relationships, qualities, etc., comes from God. If it's in ourselves, and the 80 chunks of Kampam, that if Krishna is the origin of everything, then certainly he has this characteristic. He can appear anywhere and any time, any place, in any form he likes. And who's to say he can't? Who are we to say he can't? What is this? God, man, half lion, coming out of a pillar. Are you mad? We can understand the mundane logic of limited living beings, but why is it mad? Any more mad than coming out of a hole, from the ladies coming out of the womb and then coming out of a hole? What is the big deal to understand it? We're so conditioned to think it has to be like this, because we're a tiny little experience. Hiranyakashipu was you could say, a personification of this demoniac or limited mentality of trying to put limits on God. God has no limits. So it's another aspect. The Lord appears in this form. One time Prabhupada said, why? Devotee asked, why Prabhupada does Krishna appear in this form? And Prabhupada said to convince the atheist that there's no God. Because certainly when they see a picture and you say, this is God, they think, this is proof there's no God. If it's, you're joking. Are you crazy? This is God? Forget it, man. Are you mad? They just cannot accommodate it at all. Well, generally, we don't talk in public about these things, but it's hard enough for people to even grasp the basic understanding. We're not the body. So what to speak of forms of God? But he takes on these various forms. Now, Prabhupada, I don't think he says here, let's see. From this verse, we can learn that Govinda or Krishna is the Adi Purush, the original person. The Lord has innumerable incarnations, exactly like the innumerable waves of a flowing river. You can read about that in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto. But the original form is Krishna, or Keshava, another name of Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami refers to Nrsimhadev because of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was put into great distress by his powerful father, the demon Hiranyakashipu. Apparently helpless before him, Prahlad Maharaj called on the Lord, who immediately assumed the gigantic form of Nrsimhadev, half lion and half man, to kill the gigantic demon. Although Krishna is the original person, one without a second, he assumes different forms. This is a significant point. He assumes different forms just to satisfy his devotees or to execute a specific purpose. Therefore, Jayadeva Goswami also repeats the name of Keshava, the original personality of Godhead, in his prayers describing the Lord's different incarnations for different purposes. So yes, the Lord appears here to satisfy his devotees or to execute a specific purpose, or both, usually both. To establish religious principles, also paritranaya sadhanam vinashya chadushkitam, to kill demons or kill demonic mentality, or to establish true religious principles, dharma, the eternal dharma, to shad bhagavat panitam, to establish the true path of human society and to remove these obstacles or the intrusions on the true path of human life, of Sanatana Dharma. The Lord appears to remove. This is the most demoniac thing, to meddle in religious principles and thus mislead people. Better to be an out-and-out demon than it is to, in the name of being spiritual, to manipulate religious principles and totally mislead the pious people. That's the greatest offense, you could say, practically speaking, either on the path of Mayavad philosophy or some other path of illusion, mostly on the Mayavad path. So yes, to satisfy his devotees, the Lord appears in various forms, as he does. Lord Prahlad Maharaj adores this form of Lord Nrsimhadev. To him, it's just like Prabhupada would give the example, like a kitten and the mother cat. To the cat, to the rat is death personified. To the kitten, the cat, the mother cat is, protection, complete shelter, complete peace and satisfaction. When the mother picks the kitten up in her teeth, the kitten feels so happy and protected. So the Lord appears in different ways to the rat. He appears as death personified. And similarly, in this world, Krishna is reciprocating with those who don't want to know him, who don't want to see him. He manifests himself, although they don't recognize it as God, but in the form of the material energy and ultimately as death personified to end their, whatever their illusory efforts to control the universe or control their whatever type of control they want to do. And then of course, because we could say because they have no devotion, the devotion is not manifest in their hearts, so they just have to carry on in the cycle of birth and death, suffering the results of their activities lifetime after lifetime. But the real essence, people here, at least with a little bit of faith, if they're fortunate enough to hear the pastimes of Lord Nrsingadev, then they're very lucky souls to hear about his merciful form, not just his destructive form. And that protection of Prahlad Maharaj is not so much, save me from my father who's trying to kill me. No, Prahlad Maharaj didn't do that. What his protection is, that Prahlad Maharaj was visualizing in that form of the Lord in the heart, and he felt no disturbance whatsoever. Just like when Haridas Thakur was being beaten in the marketplaces, he felt no pain. He was just absorbed in the form of the Lord, the holy name, Namarupa, completely absorbed, and he felt nothing. He was just completely absorbed, smiling. Prahlad Maharaj similarly, because Prahlad Maharaj and Haridas Thakur were related. Prahlad Maharaj was also smiling, even though he was thrown in a pot of boiling ghee, thrown from the mountains, stamped upon by elephants, poisoned, all kinds of things. Hiranyakashipu tried to kill him. So many different ways, having Rakshasas tried to stick their spears in him and so on. But he was protected. Now the Lord protected him physically, we could say, but the real protection was inside, to protect us from anarthas, protect us from deviation, protect us from forgetting our Krishna, and so on and so forth. Protection, my Lord. And you'll see in the next verse, which we won't have, maybe not time for reading today, but the next verse describes that prayer of Prahlad Maharaj, very significant prayer to protect us within. And then he also prays for the protection of the living entities, but primarily we have to start within. Charity begins at home. It's all very well thinking of the welfare of others, but if we don't ourselves, physician, heal thyself, if we haven't done our own work in our own hearts, it will not be very effective. We can pass the message on, no doubt, but even that we may not persevere in that direction without purifying our own hearts. And that's our first business, to purify our hearts by taking shelter of the lotus feet of a spiritual master and following their instructions, and particularly chanting the holy name of Krishna properly, according to their direction, not whimsically, but properly. And this way we can become purified in heart. So we'll just quickly read the next verse, which is text number 9, I think. 8, text number 8. Om Bhagavate Narsinga Namaste Tejase Vira Vibhava Vajranaka Vajradansha Karmashan Vandaya Vandaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Om Svaha Abhayam Abhayam Atmini Bhuyishtom Shram. Very famous, very, very famous verse of Lord Prahlad Maharaj to Lord Nrsingadev. And we can see in the translation, if we move forward, please. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the source of all power. So we can also remember, if we have some little power, some little, whatever, strength of some kind, always remember that this is not really mine, this is Krishna's. And he, through my senses, through my body, a little bit of that power of Krishna is manifesting. A tiny, tiny, insignificant, almost immeasurable drop of the Lord's power is manifested there, very small, tiny, tiny. Oh, my Lord, who possessed nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, my goodness, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity. in this material world. Prahlad Maharaj is not asking, kindly vanquish these demons, my lord. This Hiranyakashipu and all these others around me are causing me so much trouble. Please kill them. Prahlad didn't pray like that. He prayed, please remove all the demon-like desires for fruitive activity. And that doesn't just mean the sinful ones. We have so many, illusory pious ones too. I'm a good man. I'm going to do charity. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that for the world. Start a new party or perform some, Naimitika Dharma, some material religious activities to uplift society or create some, whatever, some materialistic beneficial things, go to heaven or something. Although we may not say that they're demoniac, nonetheless, they do lead to, they don't in themselves deliver us from any cycle of birth and death. They lead us to future births and deaths in this world. And oftentimes they're devoid of devotion to the Lord. He's just another one of the many gods. So in one sense, they may be demoniac also. In one sense, we could say not so much out and out demoniac as the obvious atheists or the persons who deny God and just think the goal of life is just to gratify one's senses. And any religion is meant for that purpose. This is demoniac mentality, philosophy, religion, science. Everything is meant to gratify our senses. This is the demoniac mentality, thinking like that. Devotional service is also meant to gratify my senses. Well, it is, but not the way we think it is, you could say. But by the association of those who are practicing purely, we may become purified of that illusion and may advance. Kama, Sava, Kama, Moksha, Kama, Avidi. But even if one is full of desires or without desire or desired liberation, whatever state we're in, if one properly worships the Supreme Lord, won't become purified, won't become delivered from one's condition or attain one's goals. So like that. But most people, unfortunately, they don't see it like that. So Lord Nrsingadev, out of his kindness, will remove all of these falsities, all these cheating propensities, just like we see in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharma Pujita Kuitavotra Padamon Matsaranam Satam. This Srimad Bhagavatam completely rejects all religious activities which are materially motivated. And almost all of our activities are motivated by our own illusions or desires in this world, you could say. So he's also kindly, he can remove these obstacles if we approach him with maybe not even without a sincere heart, you could say. You've got to be careful, but especially with a sincere heart, the Lord can do that. That's his thunderbolt. His nails, teeth. It's like we tear things out with our nails, or bite things with our teeth. Similarly, Lord Nrsingadev can remove these obstacles on our path of bhakti. We take shelter of him, not just for a nice story or something, but to actually cleanse our hearts, purify our hearts, so that true compassion can then manifest in terms of seeing oneself. As Prabhupada, as we said in the beginning, how Prabhupada saw himself as an instrument of the Lord's will, and he was praying, my Lord. You can say, we read yesterday also how different Rudas prayed. Although they're one in one sense, but there are also many forms of Godhead are there. And we sometimes pray to one form of God to achieve devotion to another form of God. And this is how the Lord reciprocates. Although he's one in essence, but the different forms have different functions. We pray to Lord Nrsingadev to clear our path towards pure devotion to whoever Ishtadev is, Radha Krishna, Sita Ram, whoever. In this way, he appears in this such a way as to remove these obstacles, not just from the external point of view, but primarily the internal purification of our hearts. Nrsingadev is our best friend in one sense, to remove this. So we appeal to him, to Lord Nrsingadev, as Prahlad Maharaj and the residents of Harivarsha are doing, to try to necessarily ask for anything in return, just because they're devotees of Lord Nrsimhadev. They're praying like this anyway, glorifying him and considering themselves still full of material desires. So please remove those desires. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also prays. We're not going to read that today. We'll leave that for Tuesday. But he has some beautiful prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev to also clear our path towards loving devotion towards Radha and Krishna. And the only thing that's stopping us from making that progress towards our Ishtadev are the various anarthas within our hearts. Offenses, attachments, misunderstandings, doubts, enviousness, all the various enemies which are in our heart. Kill these enemies. Cleanse my heart of these various enemies. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we can may become fearless in the struggle of existence in this material world. Fearless. Fearless. Now, we've been faced with the last year or more of the pandemic, with the COVID, etc. Many people are afraid or have been afraid, fearful. This has been probably more than usual. But you can't remove it just by a vaccine. That may be required or not required, but you can't remove it because of a vaccine. Fear is still there because death is always lurking, and there's so many other causes of fear. But that real fear is removed when our hearts are cleansed, when they're purified of all ignorance. We have this practical experience sometimes. I'm sure many of you, if not all, have experienced this. When we don't know something, we feel insecure. We don't know where we're going. Have you ever had that experience? Now, I was walking in a forest the other day, and literally, I made purpose, on purpose, you could say. I went into the bush, into the wild forest, off the beaten track. And there's no way I could have told which way I was going or where I was going or when I would end up getting to somewhere which gave me some direction. It could have gone on for a long, long time. And eventually I found clearings and got out of the forest. But it's like that in the material, in the great jungle of material existence. We don't know where we're going. People don't know what's going to happen when they die. They don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah, even the weather report doesn't tell us. It tells us it's going to rain and it doesn't rain, and so on and so forth. We're in ignorance. Where we came from, why I'm suffering, and we can say it's because of a flu or COVID or something, but in general, why are we suffering? Why is the body the way it is? Why? And people are always asking questions because they don't know. Unless they get answers, it's like, no. Which way do I go? How do I get there? Come in, please. Come in. How do I get there? We may be asking so many questions. Yeah, we may be asking so many questions. We want to know where to go. We're in ignorance, huh? And if we don't get the answer, we can start panicking. What do I do? What do I do? I'm sick. What do? I don't know what's happening. And if we don't get an answer, we can sometimes get quite fearful, or if we don't get an answer that satisfies us. So this ignorance is the underlying cause of bodily identification. In the 11th canto Bhagavatam, we see it described there, because of bodily identification, the living entity soul is in a fearful condition. Because we're in ignorance, false identity. Another aspect, Lord Nrsimhadev, he removes that false identity. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatpadadvena nirmam. And Rishikena Rishikesha Bhaktiseva Uchite. At the end of the same point we started with, by being fully engaged in devotional service, we're engaging our senses fully in the service of Rishikesh, the master of the senses, then Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatpadadvena nirmalam. One becomes freed of all false designation. And one's heart, tatpadadvena nirmalam, becomes cleansed. And one becomes free of fear. Krishna says, Sarvadharmam parityagya sharanam bhaja. You surrender unto me, give up all other sources of shelter. Take complete shelter of me. I will protect you of all sinful reaction. You have no need to fear anymore. This is a shelter, taking shelter. Lord Nrsimhadev, the holy name of Krishna, etc. Lord Nrsimhadev, a special role for those who are conditioned souls, particularly to remove these demoniac presences within our consciousness. Varieties of Hiranyakashipu mentality. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'm finished there. Is there any questions or comments? Please feel free to type them in. We'll take full advantage of Nrsimha Chaturdasi on whatever it is, tomorrow or Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day it is to you. And try to remember Jayananda Prabhu. You can look online, or maybe if you've got what's called the Veda base, you can find something out there about him. And become purified, inspired by hearing about him. And also by hearing about Lord Nrsimhadev, get spiritual strength and get his shelter of his thunderbolt-like nails and teeth. He can remove all these false shelters which we're holding on to. Yes, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for reminding us. Hare Krishna. Anything else?
There you go.
And something's coming up here from Australia. Fully engaged in any service in the mood of being servant of the servant. Yes. How do we protect and care for our senior devotees who have been doing wonderful service for many years and want to continue with their services when there is a mood of a mood to groom the youth in leadership at the expense of the senior devotees' services? Well, that's interesting. You're asking it from that angle. We could look at it from a different angle also. Yeah, we could look at it from many angles, there's no doubt about that. Well, what is our service? Anashuta karma palamkaryam karma karoti yasa sannyasi yogi. Right to perform a service without attachment to the results. So what is our service? Our service to our spiritual master. Just like Srila Prabhupada, of course, he came single-handedly, and he very quickly empowered younger devotees to take up responsibility. You could say he had no choice, there's nobody else around. But because he did have a choice, if you look at it from another point of view, but he always tried to empower his disciples to take up roles, whether it was producing a magazine or managing a temple, going to a foreign country to establish a center there, preach in public, whatever it may be. Now, if you ever have children, you may have this experience too. Now, parents generally are very inspired when their children become more successful than them. Now, there may be exceptions to that, as the father tries to put down the children and doesn't let them go forward. But that's not the business of a real father. He is very happy to see his children progress, and Prabhupada writes about this in the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, where he's talking about how Dhruva Maharaj would not go back to Godhead without his mother, who was his Vartma Pradarshaka Guru, setting on the path of bhakti. He wouldn't go back. He wanted to take her too, and she did. She went with him. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, he said, my hope and prayer is that I also will have a qualified devotee, a disciple, qualified, just like Dhruva Maharaj was qualified, who can take me back to Godhead. Prabhupada was writing like this. So there's many angles you can look at this, but especially younger devotees, young or old, our business is to try to inspire devotees to, no doubt, to go forward in their devotional service. And the best thing for elder devotees, now some elder devotees, you can say their lifeline dharma is such and such, and they may be very attached to what they're doing. And that's not bad necessarily, but it should never be one of the aspects of devotional service. It should never be in a way which blocks the progress of other devotees, but in a way which inspires them. I'll give a simple example herein. There's two sides to this, but let's take book distribution. Now, even if you are 85 years old and you can still go on, and maybe you can't do it physically or some other reason. In principle, you might still be able to go out and distribute books. Now, that's not interfering with anyone else's service in any way. It, in fact, is inspiring other devotees, maybe all over the world become inspired. However, Prabhupada said, even more important than distributing books is to teach others how to distribute books. If you can't do it, say la vie. But if you can teach others how to distribute books, that's even more important. So you may be, for instance, an accountant or something. More important or more valuable is to teach others to do it properly. And not that when we pass away, nobody knows what to do, but to teach others how to do it properly. You can become. Generally in Vedic society, the renunciates, or not renunciates, it's retired vanaprasthas were the teachers in society, not young people. Vanaprasthas were the teachers. One of the big problems we faced in our movement is that young people are teaching. They don't have the experience, and they have the tendency to become weakened, and they get punished for their weaknesses. They still have a lot of sexual desires to fulfill, and oftentimes it physically manifests, even in their teaching occupations. The teaching should be done by qualified vanaprasthas, traditionally speaking. And they're also the gurus in society. And as a guru, every Vaishnava is supposed to be a guru, they should be very happy to see others coming up. That means the movement can spread. And the desire of every devotee is to please their spiritual master, to please Prabhupada, to see how this movement can spread. Of course, one doesn't just give, as you wouldn't give, money, for instance, to a child who would just rip it up. Or you certainly won't give them glass, which they used to cut their fingers with. You have to have a little common sense to know who and how. And that's the whole Vedic society, how to empower persons according to their capacity, according to their eligibility in certain ways. In this way, society can carry on, can grow and develop, etc. So maybe a little greedy, you could say sometimes, I don't want to let go, but it should be expansion, not retraction. Now is an opportunity to expand. And even if you still want to do the same thing, hand over to the person and do the same thing somewhere else, move along, or train that person up so they can do the same thing, which is what Prabhupada did a lot in the beginning, training devotees by his personal example, so they could carry on running the center. Prabhupada would move somewhere else, open another center, train them up, move to somewhere else. This is far more broad-minded than just sticking. In one sense, you could say good that you're sticking to one service till death do we part. But and as I say, you can, in fact, do that, but it should be done in a way that enables others to also become inspired, enthused to move forward. And if you're teaching whatever it is, in a way which they feel responsible, they can move forward and just inspire others. The old generation, maybe, that's why in Vedic society, kings would retire at the age of 50 to enable the young ones to automatically take up the responsibility. And then what will the kings do? They wouldn't go to the forest and open up a new business or start a new kingdom. Now I'm going to have a new kingdom. No, they would go to the forest to enter into the kingdom of God. They would go there to detach themselves from whatever attachments may be there and focus on the real essence of our lives, hearing and chanting about Krishna. And Prabhupada said the whole purpose of all the services that we do is to develop a taste for chanting the holy names, to become absorbed in hearing and chanting. So as a leader, an elder devotee, that example is also required, not just, serving, which is fantastic, but also showing that example, that the fruit of that is that we become more and more interested to hear and chant about Krishna. So the devotees teach what they're good at. They may continue to do it if they're not teachers, no problem. But better to teach if one can, or to show others how to do it nicely, and to show a nice example of more serious devotional service, not when 75 years old, we're still washing some mundane stuff, or whatever it may be. Right now. So how to deal with senior devotees? We don't knock anyone out their service. You can ask for guidance how to do it nicely. Can I serve you? Can I, or whatever, the humble mood, Krishna will reciprocate. Krishna is the ultimate decider and controller. And if it's our fate or fate, not so much, but if it is good for us, then Krishna will arrange. He'll arrange it, no problem. And it'll take away, if it's an obstacle on the path of the senior devotee, he'll arrange something to take away that which is a barrier to further progress. Anyway, looked at a slightly different angle there. But maybe time to retire sometimes when we don't want to let go. Sometimes we're so, dog stubborn, as they say. And maybe that's a good sign at the time to let go and move forward. Hare Krishna. Anything else up on the screen? Devotees, Hare Krishna. Devotees also influenced by the mode of passion and ignorance. What are the ways devotees influenced by mode of passion and ignorance? How can we pray for Lord Nrsimha to remove that obstacle? Well, you can literally pray for it. Also, passion and ignorance. So we put ourselves in the center. Putting ourselves in the center and ignoring our own welfare. Even we're putting ourselves in the center, meaning in this sense, whatever we're attached to in the center. And we sometimes ignore our own, what is good for us. We ignore our sadhana, we ignore sangha, we ignore, different activities, festivals, and so on, which will actually are very valuable, important to purify our hearts. And sometimes we put our own service, or the service which we have, that's not necessarily bad, but in the mode of passion. And at least Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said, one time he said, at least if my disciples come to the mode of passion, I'll be satisfied. At least they're doing something. It may not be the mode of goodness exactly, but at least we're doing something under the mode of goodness in the sense of following the instruction of the spiritual master. So to do anything, the mode of passion has to be there. It's just a matter of the attitude that we work in passion. It doesn't mean passion is bad. Passion is energy of the Lord. When it is nature, modes of nature, we have to utilize that passionate nature in the service of Krishna. But if we're using it in our own service, it can be an obstacle. We don't pray to the Lord, please take away all passion exactly. Whatever passions we have may be pleasing to the Lord. May my service be pleasing to the Lord. Give me the energy, strength, whatever it is, to perform my service in a way which is more pleasing. As far as ignorance is concerned, well, ignorance in its very self means ignore. So ignorance of Krishna's desire, ignorant of Krishna's himself, ignorant of the soul, ignorant of the nature of bhakti. So many different ignorances may be there, and ignorance generally results in degradation, sleep. Most sleepless like me, I sleep 12 hours a day and still I'm not satisfied, I'm still tired. And on you could go with varieties of ignorance, disrespect towards other living entities, basically systematically, you could say almost. All kinds of ignorances, laziness, and so on. Anger comes up, it's like sometimes when you wake somebody up, they become angry, are you disturbing me? Of course, there's another side you could say when you're sleeping that you may have service to do or something, and it's not good to wake someone up. But in general, this anger is another result of ignorance of identity, ignorance, etc. So, yeah. So what's the question? Let me put my glasses on. That. What's the question? How can we pray? Oh, just pray. Pray to Lord Nrsimha Dev that we not become a victim of ignorance and false passion. Not that we don't come under passion. You can utilize passion. That's the point. You can utilize ignorance in the form of regulation of sleep, and you can utilize it in an indirect way by ignoring those who are atheistic. But in terms of our own practical lifestyle, by trying to regulate sleep, we can monitor ignorance and so on. sleep in the mode of goodness, if you want to call it that. Low sleep by nature is ignorance, darkness. But the devotees shouldn't be controlled, that's the point, by passion and ignorance, but rather learn to utilize them in the service of Krishna. Now, can I ask about today's special Mohini Ekadashi? You can ask as far as answering. I don't know. There's one book which describes the various Ekadashis and their various histories and benefits therein, which Prabhupada never mentioned, never talked about these things at all, as far as I know. Never even mentioned it. All the Ekadashis were basically the same, although it's a Mahadwadashi here in France. Maybe Ekadashi we were, but it's a Mahadwadashi here. Prabhupada basically spoke nothing about it, except for, we should on these days, we should undergo more strenuous efforts to chant the holy name, reduce our indulgence in activities of sense gratification. Depends what level you're on. One time Prabhupada said, these things like Kartik and Ekadashi are primarily for the karmis. Try to help them to minimize their sinful, mundane lifestyle. The devotee is supposed to be 24/7 anyway, engaged in devotional service. And you look back to Lord Chaitanya when he spoke to his mother Sachi Devi, he said, one request of you that you don't eat grains on Ekadashi. So one would assume, although not absolutely assume, but assume that Mother Sachi was eating grains before that. Otherwise, why is he asking him not to do it, or asked not to do it? Because people are so much, lazy, or so much passion, they just want to enjoy everything and anything, or they don't care to listen. But Lord Chaitanya introduced this as a regulated principles among Vaishnavas, fasting on the Ekadashi. So devotees following that line, we generally fast from grains. But even then, sometimes there are exceptions. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj will give exception to the rule sometimes. But generally, we fast because we've been asked to fast and because it's good for the spiritual life anyway. But specifically, Mohini, I don't know. And someone can look it up. And I can't remember the name of the book. There's one book on the Ekadashis and their different gains and benefits. And if you don't follow it, blah, blah, it goes on. What happens to us? You can get free from all kinds of sinful reactions by fasting on Ekadashi. But the main thing about Ekadashi is to increase hearing and chanting, to become more attached to Krishna, not just to get free from sinful reaction. We don't concoct things. The Prabhupada wanted us to chant more japa on Ekadashi, more kirtan, and so on. That's what I remember. Can I also apologize to Lord Nrsingadev for all the mistakes that I made for others, especially devotees, to remove also one of a biggest obstacle in spiritual life, Vaishnava Aparad. Is it possible? Well, if you pray to Lord Nrsingadev, he may give you the strength to do what you need to do. So if we've committed offenses, we have to go to the person or the source of the offense, as we hear from Ambarish Maharaj and Rasamuni past time. We have to go to the source. We can't just pray to Lord, please forgive me for the offense I caused to one of your devotees. The Lord doesn't work like that. And even the other way around. I mean, there was a time when Haridas Thakur was criticized by Gopal Chakravarti and this puffed up Brahmin who offended him severely. Haridas took no offense whatsoever. And just like with the Muslims who were whipping him, he was praying for their deliverance. It was a pure devotee of the Lord. But the Lord didn't forgive Gopal Chakravarti until he got that mercy. The same with Lord Devasamuni. Lord Devasamuni prayed to Lord Narayan to deliver him from being chased by the Chakra Sudarshan. But the Lord said, I can do nothing. You have to go to Ambarish and beg for his forgiveness. Fall at his feet. So, it's like if you commit a crime, and what do? You pray to someone else to forgive you for the crime. You have to go to the right source, It doesn't work like that. We can pray for the welfare of others, that the Lord may inspire them within to come to their senses, but not that the Lord's necessity. We've got to do our work there. If we commit an offense to someone, then the Lord forgives us if we go to that person and ask for their kind forgiveness. And not that we can just pray to just chant Hare Krishna, for instance. That's an offense against the holy name. And we committed some offense to a Vaishnava and we say, never mind, I'll just chant Hare Krishna. That's offensive. We have to try to go, open up. And if it's a pretty tough one, if we've publicly offended somebody or offended some bodies, then we're meant to make a public apology, not just a personal one, but a public one also, both. And that's why Gopal Chakravarti was not released, because he offended Haridas Thakur in public. Even Haridas took no offense, still, because he did it in public. He had to basically expose himself in public, reveal he was an offender. So like that. It's a pretty tough one. There's too much of that going on with our social media, I think. It's really never ending. This Kali Yuga is full of faults. What to do. But the main thing is we have to go to the object or the person that we've offended and ask for their forgiveness. This is how the heart becomes softened. How Krishna, the heart, cleanses our heart. It means we have faith in Krishna, not just the methodology, but actually faith in Krishna himself. Not just thinking, we can just atone for this by some other method. No, not possible. So Lord Nrsingadev, out of his mercy, hopefully will take away the idea that there's any other way that this can be overcome. Now, if that other person does not want to hear us and does not want to forgive us, that's another thing. The ball goes in their court. And from our side, then we in a very humble and a very helpless state, we take shelter of Lord Nrsingadev, we take shelter of the holy name, not to get rid of them. Sometimes when that happens, then we pray to Lord Nrsingadev. I went to them with all good intention, and they just shouted at me, Lord Nrsingadev, please punish them. Please get rid of them. Whatever it is. They're rascals. No, we don't do that either. Still, we look in our heart, Tenu Kampam, Susamikshamanam, and see there must be something in my heart, which is still very, very displeasing or very offensive. Please, my Lord, please show me, what should I do? What am I going to do to, rectify my offensive mentality? That we can pray like that too. We can pray to Krishna also like that. Or pure devotees of the Lord, we can pray also. But particularly we're talking about Lord Nrsingadev, so we can pray like that. Please remove, there's still some obstacles in my service to this devotee or recognition of this devotee. Please, my Lord, I know it brings pain to you that my heart is so dirty. Please, I beg you, please help. Remove these, whatever it is that's causing you pain. Next one. Can we make more spiritual advancement by doing Nil-Jil? Oh, I think you mean Nir-Jal. Nir-Jal. Nil-Jil. No Jil Ekadashi. Okay, yeah. No drilling on Ekadashi, okay? Nir-Jal Ekadashi. Can you make more advancement by, well, you can and you can. It depends what our attitude is there and why we're doing it. If you're doing Nir-Jal Ekadashi and it's not, let's say, and you're supposed to, when I say suppose, but you've been asked to do service, and no, I'm doing Nir-Jal Ekadashi, we will not make any advancement. If we're doing Nir-Jal Ekadashi, I remember maybe in the maybe late 80s, early 90s, I can't remember exactly, but there was a fashion in ISKCON to do Nir-Jal Ekadashi, and certain leaders were propagating it amongst their followers. And you were basically, it was almost became a regulated principle that if you didn't do it, never mind, keep trying. It was like, look down, like, condescending kind of a mentality crept in. And not only that, but the Nir-Jal Ekadashi may have gone on, no service was done, no preaching was done. Next morning, no one was there for the morning program. And the next day, everyone was so tired and eating all day long that they couldn't do service the next day either. So that is, in 2 words, three words, 4 words, complete waste of time. Complete waste of time. If it increases our devotional service without taking any rest the next day, and without having to eat like a pig the next day, etc., and if it actually purifies, softens our hearts, and it's, we're not advertising. And another thing you can read, this one is very interesting in the Bible. There's something very profound, which same thing in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. If one's performing austerity, one never advertises, otherwise one loses all the results of one's austerity. Now, for preaching, sometimes you have to preach the philosophy of austerity, but not advertising one's own austerity. So it was like that. I chanted 64 rounds yesterday, but how many rounds did you chant? Oh, keep trying, you might get there eventually. We're not trying to get there eventually. We're there, you can be there right now by taking shelter of the lotus feet of the pure devotees of the Lord. Not a question of 64 rounds or 64 million rounds. One is on the pure devotional platform, they never stop glorifying the Lord, no matter what's going on. We can't mechanically impose these things. Now, if it's the request or the temple program or something, in a humble heart, we may undergo these activities. But generally, Prabhupada didn't. He didn't discourage entirely. There were 1 or 2 occasions with sannyas disciples, I think, in India, whom he didn't discourage them from doing it, but he certainly didn't make it an encouraging thing for devotees in general who were still, let's say, entangled in all kinds of material, desires and what have you and so forth, have so much to work out yet from practical service. For most devotees, practical service is in many ways more effective, accompanied by chanting the holy names. So it depends on the attitude more than the activity. And that we could say for most devotional practices, the attitude, Prabhupada himself writes, in all our activities, the most important factor is our attitude in our service, what the motive is, etc. So if we have the wrong motive, then don't waste your time. Just ask yourself, what can I do on this day? They might say, chant 25 rounds, okay, and wash the pots, clean the floor. We used to clean the whole temple on Ekadashi. It was a day of cleaning, clean all the kitchen pots, everything. Clean the toilets, temples, everything, garbage room. Clean day, a day for cleaning everything. And chanting 25 rounds. That was what Prabhupada generally asked. And attending the morning and evening program, both on Ekadashi and on Dwadashi. So if you could do all these things without diminishment, that's another thing, but not many people can. They get weak, and then one of the factors is many devotees became sick by performing Nirjala Ekadashi, because this is Kali Yuga, we're not in Satya Yuga. And some people can do it. You have to judge by the results, not by the activity. Anything else? Knowingly, unknowingly ignoring. Forgive me for knowingly or unknowingly ignoring. I haven't given any instructions. Lord Chaitanya gave them to chant consistently and follow Prabhupada's teachings. I am too fallen and conditioned to appreciate your causeless mercy in my life. There's a big cause, so that's Prabhupada's mercy. I don't have anything. Thank you so much for your love. Hare Krishna, may Lord Nrsingadev. It's just a recognition. Kavatini, Hare Krishna, whatever you're. May Lord Nrsingadev bless you and pray that He also give you the strength and the sincerity that we're willing to let go. Sometimes we don't want to let go, so He's not going to force us, but He arranges situations to give us a chance to let go of our attachments. He's not going to rip them out of our hearts usually, and then we're screaming in agony and I've got nothing left, I'm devoid. But He arranges situations to, let's say, try to bring us to our senses and we let go. This is an aspect of the Lord's mercy. It's not that, we don't have to do nothing. We have to make that choice. Not that He comes with His nails and whoop, and there they go. Oh, that nut is gone. This one's gone. That one's gone. Ah! Those nails are coming out like that. This is just an example, but he puts us in situations which may seem to be a little uncomfortable sometimes, but if we really mean what we're praying for, then we'll see what the Lord's teaching us, and we'll try to learn the lesson and move forward. And not just, no. We want to hold on to the rope, the Lord's telling, let go, I'll protect. No. I want you to give me the strength to hold on to what I've got, or to fulfill my material desires. Take away the people that are interfering with my desires. That's what I meant. Give me the service that I want. It's not a very mature form of taking shelter. But with firm faith, that's the tall one. Takes time. Sometimes people may take offense and we are unaware of it. How can we rectify incidences like this? Yeah. We'll try to become, in our own hearts, offenseless. And what can we do about others? There's not much. We have many examples like this are there and there. I don't know, many probably. I know, maybe I know one or two. But devotees like even Rupa Goswami unknowingly committed an offense to one sadhu who was passing by, who had a deformed body. Rupa Goswami started laughing, but he wasn't laughing at the sadhu. He was laughing because he was in deep absorption in samadhi, practically speaking, meditating on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And some funny incident took place. He started laughing, but the passing sadhu thought he was laughing at him because he had a deformed body. And then Rupa Goswami fell out of his meditation immediately and considered I must have offended somebody. Otherwise, why? I'm sorry, unknowingly. Of course, Krishna it's not like, got you. You unknowingly committed an offense to somebody. Now you're down you go into hell. Good. Down he goes. I like to see him suffer. No, the Lord will, through this, they will start thinking, well, maybe I've committed some offenses or whatever it is, even unknowingly, or whatever reaction may come its way, the devotee takes shelter of the holy name. Unknowingly, well, what can you say? Unknowingly, if it's a practical thing, then we should learn, or we will soon find out what it is. Krishna will give us knowledge of what that unknowing offense was. If it's a seva aparad or a nama aparad or whatever. If it's a Vaishnava aparad, depending again on the nature of that Vaishnava aparad, we should understand what a Vaishnava aparad is. Maybe we'll realize, yes, now I realize I did commit an offense to that devotee. You don't know the devotee is, you don't know why, you don't know anything about it. What can you say? It's Krishna somehow putting us in that situation. And in the heart, we feel some repentance and utapa, which cleanses us of the tendency of that happening again. So anyway, a bit of knowledge sometimes required there, and a willingness, a repentant mood within our own hearts to try not to behave in such a way that it does cause any harm or disturbance to any other living entity. We can't always guarantee it. It's like when you're preaching Krishna consciousness. Jiva Parad is one of the offenses. You're going to step on insects. You're going to do all sorts of things which cause harm, you could say, to others, but it's not willingly. The main thing is the devotee should never willingly commit an offense. And if it's pointed out, we should be humble and accept it. No, I didn't commit an offense. Who are you to tell me I committed an offense? You committed an offense. That type of an attitude is not going to help us at all to progress in spiritual life. It's to try to recognize what Krishna is teaching me now and to take shelter of Krishna. Please, O Lord Nrsimhadev, please teach me the lesson that I'm supposed to learn. I'm so stupid. I'm so fallen. I can't see it, my Lord. Please teach me the lesson, if necessary, if it pleases you. To become a little humble for a change. So we might be able to, start to let go. And these things only happen because there's something in our hearts which needs to be adjusted. The Lord arranges these things. And for the sake of this, we do, like Jagai and Madai, for instance, is another example. They considered offenses to numerous living entities. They asked what to do. They were not feeling comfortable, even though Nityananda had forgiven them. They were uncomfortable. Lord Nityananda gave them the task of building a bathing ghat, and it's not that we have to all go off now to Mayapur and build bathing ghats, but just to give an example, gave the example, build a bathing ghat, so for the benefit of all the devotees, all the people of Navadvip, they can come there and bathe nicely on the bank of the Ganga, and you stay there and you serve all the devotees when they come. So he gave this kind of very specific, and in our particular case, serve Charanamrita, serve Prasadam to one and all without any, in a humble way, not in a proud way, and just try to serve. In Vrindavan, when they know everyone goes on parikrama, they squash ants left, right, and center. Many people put sugar on the path so that the ants can come at night and eat the sugar. Different little things like that, because they see them all with vishvasis, of course. We can't help but offend living entities without knowledge. So we try our best to chant and hear and serve. And Krishna understands it, but we don't go out trying to offend devotees or trying to offend other living entities. That's something else. Unknowingly, we're bound to commit some offense to another living entity, be it human or otherwise. But the devotee chants the holy name, try to preach Krishna consciousness. The practical activity to try to release us from this effect. Hare Krishna. Where are we going now? Hare Krishna. And I also miss you all. And we hope that, well, we don't know. Time takes its ways, has its ways of moving things around. It's all under the control of Krishna in the form of time that things are happening. Take advantage as much as we can. They say absence makes the heart grow fonder. So sometimes our attack vipalamba bhav in relation with Krishna. Even amongst devotees, to some degree, we start to appreciate each other more when we don't get the chance to associate much. Try to, Prabhupada said, you are on the other side of the world, I'm on another side of the world, but if we're all chanting, he said, we're all packed up together. So we can feel each other's presence. The more we delve into pure devotional service. It's not like just a sentimental absence or even just an inspirational absence, but it becomes an actual source of inspiration that we're trying to take shelter of the instructions wherever we are. That way we associate through siksha. It's actually through siksha, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes it through siksha that we understand, or through Vani, that we understand the real vapu of association, the real form of association, through following the instructions. And then we can begin to appreciate each other more and more and more, wherever we are. And you can feel the presence of someone from a long, long way away by following their instructions or meditating on their instructions and trying to execute them, etc. Don't be like Kamsa. Kamsa was also thinking of Krishna, but in a negative way. You think of them positive, this will purify our hearts and bring us closer. Well, Hare Krishna, the time is running. It's nearly, here it's nearly midday. I guess, is there anything else there? There are a few questions above. Also some dependent, what's that mean? From Doris. Some dependent from Doris, Goridas, and Kavitini addressed to everyone. Let me have a quick look. Kavitini, we did that one. Nishta, we didn't do Nishtas. Sometimes people may take offense. No, we did that one, I think, more or less. Well, it was similar to the next one. Huh? Incidents like this. Well, we just try to be offenseless. You can't guarantee what other persons take our activities to be. We can only try ourselves not to, become upset, offensive, or whatever it may be, and try to purify our own hearts. Can we make some spiritual? We did that one. Where's this one from? Right? Not sure we did that one. Savitri, we did that one. Not sure. Glory does, maybe. The one of them in the past. Lord Nrsimhadev. We have prayed to Lord Nrsimha for the past for curing. Okay, here we go. Our senior Vaishnavas like Panchajangri Prabhu and Bhakti Maharaj, and still they have left us. How do we understand that Lord Nrsimhadev listens to our prayer. They've never left us. They remain forever by their example. Our prayers are to try to help us to come to a prayerful state. Their mercy is to help. So on the material platform, we become disturbed and disheartened sometimes because we expect, our particular perspective to be fulfilled. We don't know what their desire is. And there's one other godbrother who just passed away. His name is Mahashringa Prabhu, who did tremendous service in our movement over 50 years. Not so well known, maybe by most, maybe none of you know him. I know him quite well from a long time. And devotees were praying a little bit where he was anyway, and asking him, please, Prabhu, we need you to stay. So, you may need, but I don't want to stay. It's time to go. So, there's the desire of the person involved. There's the desire of the Guru. There's the desire of the Supreme Lord. And that which is best for all of us. We don't realize it sometimes. We tend to be sometimes a little bit immature in our understanding, not only of, let's say prayer and its purpose. When Prabhupada was in his last days, he said, you should pray, my dear Lord Krishna, if you so desire, please make Srila Prabhupada, please cure Srila Prabhupada. If you so desire, what does it mean? We're just looking at it from our own perspective. When we say cure, we mean physically cure. We're thinking physically. But the bigger lesson is sometimes taught in absence than it is in physical presence, a bigger lesson. A lesson in where we take things for granted, where we were lazy to take on responsibility, where we have big lessons to learn sometimes. And sometimes great souls leave us. And don't forget, they weren't exactly in their 30s, they were both in their upper 70s. So these things do tend to happen anyway. And then the other side is to remind us this is perfection in life when we're taking shelter of Lord Nrsimhadev. It's not the result that counts, it's the activity. And that should come upon Kamakroti. The activity that we're in a prayerful mood, realizing it's not within my control. But it's again, when we're in prayer, that prayer is not also within our control. How Krishna reciprocates with us is not necessarily the way we expect. It's for a higher purpose all around and for our own benefit, to strengthen us in our devotional service. Not that we're the controllers. Okay, 10,000 mantras, that must be enough to save them. It doesn't work like that. It's to bring us to the point. It looks like with Bhakti True Maharaj, all over the world, people were chanting the holy name. Pankajangri, all over the world, people were chanting the holy names. And right now we're remembering his glorious qualities, both of them. Or Jayananda Prabhu left when he was in his 30s. He was 37, I think. It's other reasons we can really, absence is going to come sooner or later to strengthen us so that we're ready. If Prabhupada left, we could say prematurely from our point of view, but it was meant to be at that point of time. The lessons we have to go through, the pain or whatever else it may be experienced according to our positions, that which we have to go through to become dependent on Krishna. They teach us how to depend on Krishna, whether during their lifetime or when they're leaving their body, how to depend upon Krishna. We can always remember that. They're important lessons. Who was that? I can't see anymore. What was that? Who was that other one who asked a question?
I put it down the bottom of the chat again.
Huh? Down the bottom?
I put it down the bottom again. I've copied it again. If you had done.
Why only the second initiation devotees could bathe Nrsimhadev? Is that what it says? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Why only second initiated can bathe Lord Nrsimhadev? Well, I don't. Well, I have. I wish to worship Lord Nrsimhadev, not in Mayapur. I only Lord Nrsimhadev. You mean? Do you mean as a deity? I wonder, or do you mean in Mayapur in a temple? I'm not quite sure what we mean there. I'm not a pujari. I'm not a purohit. I'm not so much familiar with all the rules and regulations, even of the various worship, etc. But generally speaking, at least in temples, Prabhupada made it the standard that second initiated Brahmins were the ones who only worship the deities in the temple. Now, The point about bathing or deity worship or any of these things is not a mechanical activity. I do, I don't. It's a state of consciousness. The whole point is a Brahmin is supposed to be in the mode of goodness. Now, there are different forms of Lord Nrsimhadev. There's Yoga Nrsimha, there's Ruga Nrsimha, there's this Nrsimha and that Nrsimha, and they reciprocate differently. For instance, for one who is not a Brahmin, there's no question of worshipping Ugra Nrsimha. Even if you're a Grihastha, you're not supposed to worship Ugra Nrsimha. You can worship another form of Lord Nrsimhadev. Ugra Nrsimha is very, and if you have any material desires in your heart, be careful. You've got to be quite pure to worship Lord Ugra Nrsimha, like in Mayapur. It can be very offensive to even think materially when you're worshiping him. That can have effects on others too. So, the level of consciousness is important in worshipping at least Ugra Nrsimha deity. In the home, I don't know, I'm not saying not a Purohit, but many devotees worship Lord. It depends what degree of worship you mean, bathing Lord Nrsimhadev, etc. Everything depends on their consciousness. It's not so much first or second when it comes to that. But the idea is that we work towards a purer conscious. Second initiation means you're supposed to be in the mode of goodness. You're not supposed to be, maybe in the mode of goodness and not be initiated at all, or more so. And but you're supposed to be, Brahmin is supposed to be, in the mode of goodness, supposedly. So their mood of worship is not a motivated mood. It's not one with pride. It's not one with, offense or anything like that. That's the idea. Because in worship of certain deities, then, if we're an offensive mentality, there can be a negative result. So we will protect devotees from committing offenses which may damage their devotional creepers or disturb the temple, etc., etc. Prabhupada sometimes remove devotees from services. He said that what they're doing is disturbing the whole temple because their consciousness is not good. Especially cooking and deity worship, these two activities, particularly consciousness, good consciousness. So, as I say, you'll have to ask somebody who's knows all the details of which deities and so on and so forth. I know Prabhupada writes that Grihasthas can worship at home. Even in public, Prabhupada said we could distribute Radha Krishna at one time, not just Gaura Nitai. We're distributing Gaura Nitai to the black village peoples in Kenya, just giving them Gaura Nitai wooden deity form. And he said, I want to make many hundreds of forms of rubber Radha Krishna deities to distribute to the public. There's more to it than just, but for the devotees, we should be trying to come to a higher standard. That's the point. Higher standard. A child, you give the child this and that to imitate. But when the child grows up and they become a little more serious about it, it's not. When the child cooks and imitates the mom, maybe he puts some stones and some dirt and grass in the pot, and there's no heat going underneath, but he stirs it up with a bit of water and thinks, I made a soup, Mummy. And Mummy said, oh, very nice. She takes a bit of stone as if she's eating very nice or something. But when it's that girl, when she's 17 years old, is still cooking stones, straw, and sand and offering it to the family, it would be considered inappropriate, to say the least. So we have to grow up. So all this is to help us to progress and grow up, and not be spoiled. Why can't I do it? I want to do it. That's baby mentality. You have to do what step by step by step. Prabhupada generally amongst the devotees, he started with Guru Garanga worship. Anyone can do that. Anyone, even if you're not following the principles, you can still do some form of Guru Garanga worship. Have a picture of Panchatattva and the gurus, and just offer what you can, even if we're not following the principle. Everyone can do that. Everyone. Anyway, that's something for someone who's more learned than me. Is that it, Rasik?
I think pretty much.
Okay. Here's a question from Doris. Did I answer that?
Yes, Maharaj.
Oh, did, okay. Okay, well, that's probably practically it. Okay, well, wish you all the best. And just keep chanting. As Jayananda Prabhu would say, he said, things don't always go right in Krishna. When he says Krishna consciousness, he means in our lives, Things don't go always right in the Krishna consciousness movement. You have to keep chanting, keep chanting, keep chanting. We don't understand why Krishna does these things sometimes. That's his inconceivable nature. Why he takes away devotees, why he took Prabhupada away when he did, why he took Bhakti Chamaraj or Pankajangi Prabhu or our family members or anyone come to them. Everything has, we may not understand the purpose, but there is always a deeper purpose there involved for everyone involved. So taking shelter of Krishna's inconceivable nature, keep chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra more and more and more, and try to hear the sound of Krishna's names, things will become clear. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Wake up. I can see many of you fast asleep out there. Hare Rama, especially in Delhi. I hope you're okay there in Delhi. I mean, we can say prayers for the devotees in Delhi and the people in Delhi in that sense, that they be protected in their consciousness as well. You know, not that they're fearful and overwhelmed, but do the needful. Don't be stupid. You know, have to do the needful. We can't protect ourselves, but use your common sense and do the needful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hey, Gary! Gary! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi Shri Nrsimhade Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Jayananda Prabhu ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Haribo! Hey, Haribo from Fiji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You can see some devotees in air. They're up in the air. And from Sydney and Czech Republic and Slovakia and Australia and India and Perth and from Malaysia, many from Philippines, so many are there, from Denmark and France and New Zealand and England and Philippines, many from Ireland, Haribo from North
Hare Krishna.
Oh, and where else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Melbourne, several from Northern Ireland, Scotland, India. Who else we are there? Malaysia, and Fiji, Germany. Yeah, all over the world here. Slovakia. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol, everybody. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribo! Haribo!
Haribo.
Makan. Hare Krishna. Hello. Food for life, Ki Jai. Haribo. And from Slovakia. And from Czech. Nakod. Haribo. Haribo. Hare Krishna. Bless Prabhupada.